Hi, my name is Katie Kataska, and I am the chair of the Professional Development Committee of the New Jersey State Library Association. In the Library Career Path series, we'll be interviewing librarians from a wide variety of positions within the field, from public positions to music outreach and even business librarians. So newcomers and seasoned librarians alike can learn more about the many career options available in the field that they may not have been aware of. We hope you enjoy these interviews, and please like and subscribe to our channel below to help promote the Library Career Path series. Thanks so much for watching this series. We hope you enjoy it. Take care.
Okay. All right. Mark, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today. I'm very excited to talk to you about what you do. Can we just start by, can you give us your name, your title, and place of employment?
Sure. My name is Mark Aaron Polger. I'm an outreach librarian at the College of Staten Island, which is part of the City University of New York. I guess my official title is associate professor because librarians have faculty status, but what I do is I'm responsible for outreach and making connections both internally and externally from the library to within the campus departments, as well as the external community outside of the college.
Okay. All right, great. What inspired you to become a librarian? Did you choose this profession or did it find you? I love these stories. They're always so fun.
So I've been working in libraries since I'm 14 years old. So grade
Okay.
8. So that would be that's a long time. So I started working as a circulation clerk. Again in grade 8, or in the United States you say the 8th grade, but I'm from Canada, so it's grade 8. And so I was working and as a teenager, and I've been working professionally as a librarian for half my life. So I'm 50 and I've been working for 25 years as a professional librarian. So it's like literally half my life. But I've always liked to work at libraries because, it's not about reading. I like helping people. So I like helping people. And I think I'm kind of like a natural detective. So I like to find things and organize things. So I think it was just natural for me to be a librarian. I'm trying to think if I'm actually a control freak, because I know that stereotypical librarians are control freaks. I do like organizing things. So I try to be very organized, and I think that's how my brain works. So I've always enjoyed working at libraries and helping people and interacting with the public. My first paid library job, I worked at my college. And I believe I was 17 years old as my first paid library job, and then I got my MLS at 25. So
So you were in college at 17. That's young, right?
So in Canada,
Okay.
so we have different levels. So I graduated high school at 17, and we only go to grade 11 in Quebec. And then before university, we have a 2-year pre-university program, which I think you call community college.
Yes.
So I started that as I was turning 18. It's a 2-year pre-university, kind of would you say like associates,
Right.
before going into university at 21. I did more like 3 years, not 2 years, in a pre-university, which we call CEGEP, CEGEP, which is it's an acronym for in Quebec, it's equivalent of grade 12 and 13. Sorry for the long story.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna veer off script now too, because I have a question. So I'm assuming that first job in grade 8 was a public library in Quebec.
No. Oh. So my first job it was in a school library, and I wasn't paid. That's why I wasn't paid.
Okay.
I was doing circulation as a volunteer. I was 14 years old, and it was in my school library. And then my first paid job, when I was in CEGEP, or I'm going to say grade 12 and 13, that was paid. And that was in an academic library in a
Okay.
college, in a small college. Sorry, I
That's
hope I
okay. No,
clarified.
I
I'm
was
sorry.
wondering if public libraries are significantly different in Canada than they are here. That was where
They,
my mind was going.
they are not.
Okay.
Having lived, I've lived in New York City for 17 years.
Okay.
And growing up, in Canada, I lived in Montreal, big major city. I lived in Toronto, another major city. I would
Okay.
say the public libraries are very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Was there something specific that pointed you in the direction of becoming, so I guess an outreach librarian?
I have an interest in marketing. I have an
Okay.
interest in relationship building and communications, as well as writing and dealing with the public. But I think I have an interest in marketing. I wrote a book on library marketing, and I'm interested in connecting with specific target audiences to promote the value of the library, but also creating like curated messages and very selective selective messaging to selective targeted groups on campus to kind of promote different aspects of the library. So that's what marketing is.
Right.
So that, I think, for me, for about 5 or 6 years, I was only responsible for first year students, right? So
Okay.
I was the first year librarian. So my targeted group were like, I was focusing all of my promotional efforts to like really raising and elevating the profile of the library to first year students. And then my role got expanded. We all of us do faculty outreach, but I do student outreach. So student
Okay.
outreach, focusing on different student groups on campus, also focusing on high schools, the public library, liaising with other departments, both internally within the campus and also externally.
Okay.
So yeah, but I used to be like, for a long time, I was the first year experienced librarian. I did only first year outreach.
Okay. That's really
Sorry,
interesting.
sorry for talking so fast.
No, I love it. I love it. This is great. Okay. I don't know how long you've been in your current position, but can you describe the interview process for a job similar to yours? Is there an asset you possess which you believe may have helped you land your job? So just for people who are looking to get into our audience is people looking for, to learn more about the jobs in our field.
Okay.
So that's
sure.
where
Sure. So it's going on 17 years.
Okay.
And I moved to United States already having about a decade of experience. So so I wasn't like a new graduate. So I'm going to answer your question. I think and this is also a big part of my dissertation. I'm finishing my PhD. I'm defending
That's
in the
exciting.
yeah, it is exciting because and I'm going to just talk a little bit about that. So I'm defending in the next few months, and it's been 9 years. I'm in my 9th year. Like I have to finish. It's getting too long. So one of the things that is really important about what are some of the skill sets you need as an academic librarian, I think, and it's in the literature, is academic librarians are expected to teach.
Right.
So that's like a big thing. So whether it is traditional like classroom teaching or preparing instructional materials, whether it's like LibGuides or whether it's video tutorials, instruction and pedagogy, whether again it's traditional classroom instruction or it's one-on-one or in the form of other instructional materials, that's going to be an expectation in a job interview for sure. It's not only in the literature, but academic librarians are expected to teach. And what's interesting is, and I don't know your experience, but we didn't get any teacher training. I mean, I went to library school in the late 90s. There were no courses on teaching at all. And a lot of the literature shows that, like librarians are not, especially academic librarians, they're not prepared to teach. So they have to learn on their own. And I mean, I was very fortunate that when I was living in Canada, I worked in a hospital and they paid for me to get an education degree. So I got an education degree at the bachelor level, like a very simple bachelor's of education. So formally, I went back to school, but because the hospital, I worked in a medical library, the hospital paid for my tuition. But I think what's important is I don't think there are courses on pedagogy in library school. I mean,
Right.
I could be wrong, but
So I think there's a school librarian track, or there was when I went, which wasn't that long ago. But that I believe is geared towards children.
K-12. Yeah, that's
Yes,
K-12. That's
exactly.
that's
It's
not like
different.
academic. So
And
I
so,
think the,
sorry, an
oh,
education
sorry.
degree is not a requirement for your position?
No,
No, I
no,
didn't think
no.
so. Okay.
At CUNY, you need like the double masters, so the MLS and like a subject masters. So I have a bachelor's degree in sociology. I did it like over 30 years ago, and I have a master's degree in sociology, which I did a very long time ago.
Okay.
But I don't use that in my job like at all. I mean,
Right.
obviously the MLS is very, very practical, but I think that I learned how to teach, like by practicing,
Right.
by reading, again, I was very fortunate to actually have a separate do like a bachelor of education, many, many, many years after my MLS. And it was funded by my employer at the time, which is
Right.
wonderful. So I learned how to teach like on the job and on my
Right.
own, but so that's a big thing that at an interview, I think that candidates are going to be expected to have obviously excellent verbal and written communication skills. That's like a no-brainer. Also, like learning how to use, like learning to be able to be comfortable using new software. So I had to learn software that I'm not like comfortable learning, obviously, and software always changes. So I think people need to be technically savvy,
Right.
to an extent, to learn or to be open to learning software, because we use a lot of software, for our 24-hour online chat. We use SpringShare, we use LibApps, we have a blog. There's like blogging software. I remember in library school we had to create web pages using HTML.
Yes.
Nobody uses HTML anymore. Now we use a content management system like WordPress. Like it's
I
much
had
easier
to do
now.
that, and I graduated in 2022. So they're still teaching that.
HTML.
Correct.
Wow.
That we started with
I'm
that. We went on to like Java and other things,
right.
and stuff I'm never going to use. In
I'm
my
shocked.
job,
I'm shocked.
But they're still teaching it.
Wow.
Yes, I know. It's crazy.
Because HTML is old. I use HTML in the 90s. I don't think people,
old.
I mean, I don't know if people even, I'm just shocked.
Yeah.
So you graduated in 2022.
Yes.
So you're like a newish librarian.
I am a newish librarian. Yes.
Okay.
This was a
so feel free to pick
life choice.
yes. Feel free to pick my brain. Because I think like at the job interview, I remember, depending on the kind of job, I think that they ask about, what is your experience interacting with people? What are your communication skills? Which, again, what are your writing skills, your verbal communication skills, your written communication skills? And I think that they'll ask a lot of questions about the reference interview, about, like asking open-ended questions, listening skills. So I think for being a reference librarian, whether it's an academic library or a public library, I think you have to have like really good listening skills and good, public service skills, like learning how to treat people respectfully.
And customer service skills, which actually we were talking about yesterday, which they also do not teach in library school, but that you really, really need.
I mean, I think it's very common sense to have like, that you're, the way I always say this when I'm teaching my classes, and I used to teach like a freshman skills class at a college many, many years ago. The way that you write an email to a friend or a family member is very different than you write an email to a colleague. So I think like learning how to, speak professionally on the phone, thinking that it's very different than speaking with a friend or family member on the phone. The same thing with an email, the way that you compose an email, common sense things like, you have a professional email as opposed to a personal email, because your personal email may not have your name. It might be something.
Kids don't really get that unless you tell them. Like they really don't.
Definitely, definitely. So I think a lot of things that I think are common sense, but also being very intentional to understand that working in a professional environment, you communicate differently verbally or in writing differently than in a professional setting. So I think that at a job interview, they're going to be asking you for examples and specific examples that you can demonstrate that you know how to communicate and interact with people in a professional context. I think that's something that is that would be asked at a job interview. Hope I'm answering your question.
You are answering my question. No, this is great. I want to ask you 2 questions before we move on.
Sure.
1, what is your PhD in? And 2, do you want to share the title of the book that you wrote?
Oh, sure. Okay. My PhD is in learning and instruction.
Okay.
My dissertation I'm looking at faculty perceptions of academic librarians as teachers, and I'm examining the power dynamics and the power struggle that academic librarians have with faculty as they negotiate an information literacy session. So I'm looking at power dynamics. I'm looking at the relationship that academic librarians have with faculty and how we're misunderstood, how faculty don't really know what we do, and how I'm looking at how the whole profession of librarianship needs to be transitioned from a service profession to an educational profession, because I think we're still stuck in a service profession. And I think we still are a service profession, but I think that faculty don't recognize our educational contributions and they don't really see us as educators. They see us, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much about it, but
it's fine. I asked you a question.
And I think that there is a problem where the stereotypes of librarians are not catching up to the changing role of that, like academic librarians' roles are changing quite rapidly, but I think the stereotypes are not catching up. So I'm just kind of summarizing what my dissertation is. So it is a library and information science dissertation, but my PhD is in education and learning and instruction. My advisors are all from the library science department. I'm finishing in a SUNY school at University of Buffalo, which is part of the SUNY school. Even though I work in New York City in CUNY, and I started it 9 years ago, and I'm hoping to defend in the next few months. Like I have to.
You're almost there.
Literally almost. So the books that I've written 3 books. So the most recent book is called it's a nice book cover. It's called Library Signage and Wayfinding Design. That was published by ALA Editions in 2022. My pre-pandemic book on marketing is called Library Marketing Basics. It was published in 2019. And I co-wrote a book back in 2017 called Engaging Diverse Learners, Teaching Strategies for Academic Librarians. And that was published in 2017 with Scott Scheidlauer.
Okay, excellent.
Those are my books.
Amazing. Okay, so let's go on to what is a typical work day for you? What does that look like?
Okay, so there's a lot of things. Okay, so I'm an instructional librarian, so I teach one-shots, which is a lot of academic librarians teach one-shots. I also teach accredited.
I don't know what one-shot means.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Is that something? Is that like lingo? I don't.
No. I guess it is. I teach a single session library instruction workshop. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
yeah, a one shot. Sorry. Okay. So a single session workshop or a library instruction session where the class brings their students and the librarian does a presentation where they focus on an assignment. And it's usually 90 minutes. And we call it a one shot because the class sees the librarian only once. And we focus on a single assignment with a specific set of learning outcomes, with a specific learning objectives. And we have 90 minutes. And I feel it's like a theatrical performance because I can totally screw up or I can make it a memorable experience so the students remember me. I have
Right.
about 3 or 4 learning outcomes that I try to accomplish in these 90 minutes. It's very rushed. And
Okay.
the goal is to teach the students how to use a particular database so they can find the materials they need to find to successfully complete their assignment and to cite the references, whatever, in APA or MLA.
Okay.
So let's say I do 30 in a semester, 30 like
Okay.
one shots, right? Which are all different disciplines, but I also teach a credit bearing class. So I teach an information literacy course
Okay.
over the whole semester. So that's a 1 credit like elective class.
Okay.
So I teach that. And also another part of my job is like outreach and marketing. So I will focus on, like promoting like library programs and events on social media, creating like digital signs, looking at signs, promotional material, updating the blog, and promoting on different social media channels, coordinating student centered events in the library and promoting them. So not actually executing or delivering them, but helping with the planning and the promotion. So that could be any kinds, like we have monthly films.
Okay.
We have library tours. We have a therapy dog. We have coloring events, button making. We have de-stress events. So anything that is a library event or it's an archives event, I will support like the archivist in the planning and the promotion of different events on campus. But I'm also the liaison for like the Office of Recruitment and Admissions, also the Center for Global Engagement, and like different offices. And I will also kind of promote library services to those offices. I also am the liaison to the different like local area high schools.
Okay. I was going to say, how embedded are you with the community? Like, do you do a lot?
Not a lot, a
Not a lot.
little. I mean, because I mean, there's just there's so much I can do, right? So like for example, like I will give like library tours for high school students. Also, incoming students are coming to CSI.
Right.
I've done a couple of like elementary school students, which is ridiculous because if they're in grade 4, they're not thinking about college.
Right.
They're grade 4, they're like 9 or 10 years old. However, I have done library tours for like grade 4 students, which is again, I don't think it's appropriate.
Why is this happening?
Yeah, I don't know why it's happening, but it's happening. Also, I'm the liaison to the public library, so we coordinate the public library visits. They're going to visit like once a month for library card signups, and I'm just kind of like liaising with the community.
Okay. All right. So what skills and qualifications are required for your position, and do you feel that they match the skills and qualifications that you most use on a daily basis?
I think some of the like I'm not naturally an extrovert, but I have to pretend to be. So I think like being an extrovert and not being afraid to like reach out and speak to people and be an advocate. And I think some people are too shy. So being an advocate, knowing how to like focus on strategic messaging, I think is a skill. So being very intentional on how you communicate with people and that you communicate differently with faculty versus with like alumni versus students versus graduate students. So just being very mindful and intentional about how you're communicating with different target audiences. I'm going to try to answer your question. So I think that getting out of the library and speaking with people, not being afraid of doing like I do a lot of like public presentations and I am afraid, but I have to pretend not to be.
Right.
So I think, getting out of your comfort zone and being able to be extroverted, even if a person may not be. I think that's a really important skill. So
okay. No, that's very helpful. Right. Can you share with us what you think is the best thing about your job and what is your least favorite?
So I'll talk about the least favorite. All academic librarians have to be on the reference desk. And I don't enjoy the reference desk as much as I used to like 25 years ago because 2 reasons. Horrible behavior. Some students don't know how to behave at an academic library. And I think like we don't get like the same amount of reference questions. We get a lot of like directional questions that like I just are not necessarily like true reference
Right.
questions. So
Right.
it's a little bit disappointing. It's a bit disheartening. It's a little bit like disappointing. That's a good word. I get really exhausted from just like a lack of like common sense etiquette in an academic library. Students don't know how to behave. Some students are nice. I don't want to say all students.
Right.
Some students behave very well. Some students do not know about like just common sense etiquette. So it's just frustrating because I don't want to be policing students. I don't want to like I want to be, caring and nurturing and supportive, and I want to provide, a welcoming, friendly, positive experience. But a lot of the times it's really, really ruined by a few students who just have very bad behavior in the library. And it ruins the morale, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
not going to go into detail.
As a public librarian, obviously, I also have to be on the reference desk. And, we have regulars that do not want help in any way that we can actually provide it. And so you just end up with compassion fatigue. It's just a real part of the job.
Yeah.
So I completely get it.
Thank you. Because I don't want to complain, because there are students who love the library, love asking like librarians questions, are very respectful, and they use the library as a learning space. But I also, there are some students that use the library as like a cafeteria, and I understand, like, humans have to socialize. I get it. Humans have to socialize. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't socialize, but it's just like, it's really the academic library as well as the public library is a learning space and needs to be respected. And it's not a computer lab. It's not a cafeteria. It's not a McDonald's. And so that's something like that I kind of dislike, and I don't enjoy. I think what I enjoy the most, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy teaching the most, whether it's a one shot, a single information literacy session which is like a finite 90 minutes. The students have an assignment. I am there to help them complete their assignment, find, credible sources, cite their papers properly. I teach them how to prevent plagiarism, all of those really fun, learning objectives. I enjoy one shots. They go too quickly. So I enjoy teaching. I think I also enjoy promoting and elevating the library, because that's my job. I have to promote the library. So whether we are promoting different library services or different library resources, I love that my job involves, kind of like writing up press releases. That I have tried that. Communicating with the media, and like being interviewed. Even being interviewed is great, because I'm promoting my job and I'm promoting my profession. So what I'm doing is also very good for advocating for libraries and for librarians. So I think that promoting the library and using social media, using the website, using traditional printed marketing materials, I enjoy. And I'm not a graphic designer, so I think that I'm improving my graphic design skills, which are not good, but I'm improving. So I think that what I love about my job is, like being creative, also learning how to write, like the marketing messaging, and improving my messaging, specifically how I convey language to a specific targeted audience. So I think it improves my writing and it improves my creativity, because I'm creating like promotional material, and I'm using different software, and I'm becoming more of an expert at that software. Because some software is very intimidating. So I think that it's building upon just my creative skills, writing skills, communication skills. That's what I love about being an outreach librarian.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, so I've yet to find a way to ask this question in a way that makes me feel comfortable. So just with the caveat that I'm not asking for numbers.
Okay.
Does your current job meet your salary expectations? And this again is just, we're directing.
Yeah, no, I'm just charging the laptop.
No problem.
Okay, does my current job meet my salary expectations? Well,
Do you think you're
uh,
compensated?
yeah, I think so. I'm gonna just say, okay, so I work in the CUNY system, so it pays very well. I'm not
Okay.
like, I can't complain. I can't complain. You
Okay.
know, I mean, I work in a public university. I'm very like I live in New York City. New York City is expensive. You
Right.
know, I mean, I choose to live in Manhattan. Manhattan's expensive. I mean, you know,
Okay.
I'm gonna say and this is just my opinion, just my
Okay.
opinion. I think the benefits outweigh my salary. The benefits of
Okay.
like faculty status, sabbatical, research leave, my annual leave, and this is just my opinion. It's not fact. I think for me, I mean, I'm happy with my salary, but
Okay.
I think the benefits. I mean, I got a sabbatical. I got a year paid at 80%.
Okay.
I mean, a year paid at 80% is pretty amazing. And
Right.
we get that every 7 years. So
Wow.
I mean, I
Okay.
would say again, this is just personally in my opinion, I think that my benefits outweigh my salary. Although I'm pretty happy with my salary.
No, that is a perfect answer. That we're looking for your opinion. We want people who are interested in your type of job to get that opinion. So that's perfect.
I mean, I liked it. Like okay,
Mhm.
academic librarians that have faculty status, there is an extra stress of publishing.
Mhm.
Okay. And like, I think that, you know, like, for example, Columbia University, again, prestigious university, academic librarians don't have faculty status. So I hope that they're well paid, but it's one less stress, right? They don't have to worry about
You don't
publishing.
have
So
to
it's like,
publish,
it's
right?
one less stressful thing to think about. But I also like the benefits of faculty status. I mean, you know, I like that there are a lot of really good benefits. It's not about the salary, it's about the benefits. I get research leave. I love
Right.
research leave, you know. I got a sabbatical and it was paid for a
So
whole
I don't know
year.
if you know this, but do you have a sense of whether or not academic librarians usually have faculty status? Or are most universities and colleges more like Columbia where they don't, or usually they do, or it's just a mix?
Okay, so that is a question I don't know, and
Okay.
I'm sure. So I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
I don't really know. I mean, I'm sure there's literature that shows it, but I would say, and I'm only guessing. I would say it's half half. I would say maybe
Okay.
like, and again, I'm only guessing. Maybe like half the universities in this country have like, you know, academic librarians as professional staff. I'm sure they're paid very well. They have a lot of great benefits, and maybe half the universities they have faculty status, but there's different kinds of faculty status. There's faculty status where they're called faculty, but they don't have tenure.
Okay.
And that's another thing altogether. We have faculty status and we have tenure. So that means like I got tenure in my 7th year, right?
Okay.
So you know, I assume that tenure is job security. I mean,
Right.
I hope, I hope. And like, so tenure and faculty status are two different kinds of things. And I mean, in the CUNY system, we have faculty titles. I don't care so much about my title, but we have a faculty title. So we have the exact same salary as, you know, traditional faculty. So my title is also associate professor. So I have the same salary as an associate professor who doesn't work in the library, like
Okay.
you know, get like traditional faculty, the ones that
Right.
you know don't work in the library. So I'm gonna guess that like, you know, like a lot of universities in the United States, and I'm guessing half half, I don't know for sure, you know, they have academic librarians, you know, maybe paid very well. They might have a lot of benefits, but they're not faculty, so they don't have the same benefits as
Right.
regular faculty. They may not have tenure, so they may have some other kind of job security. They may not get sabbaticals, they may not get research leave. NYU librarians are called curators.
Okay.
So it's a different kind of faculty because they don't have the word, it's not called professor, it's called
Okay.
curator. I
Huh.
don't know what that means. I have no
Me
idea.
neither.
So they have faculty status, but it's called something else. It's called,
Okay.
it has a different name, you know?
Okay.
So, I mean, I think like, I don't know about SUNY because SUNY is different than CUNY. And I don't know about, let's say like Rutgers. Rutgers, they do have faculty status.
I'm
I
pretty
don't know
sure
what,
they do.
you
Yeah.
know, so I don't know. So in other words, like they may be called different things. They might have a different salary, but at CUNY, librarians are faculty and we have the exact same salary as
Right.
regular faculty. But like
So it definitely varies. Okay.
it definitely varies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. What advice do you have for new librarians or graduate students about to enter the fields?
Okay, this is my advice because I do teach in a library science program at St. John's University. I'm an adjunct. So this is my advice. Be open to working any kind of librarian job. I think that's really important to have an open mind. Even though like you might have your heart set on academic libraries, or you might have your heart set on public libraries, have an open mind and open heart and try to like be open to learning new things and trying new things out. I was a cataloger for a year. I didn't really enjoy it, but I tried it. I was a children's librarian for a year. I didn't really like it, but I tried it.
Right.
I think, and also like I worked in a hospital, and I definitely like did not want to work in a hospital, but I worked in as a medical librarian in a hospital for like 3 years. So, you know, I mean, like
That sounds interesting.
Very, very stressful. It was,
Oh,
yeah, very fast paced and
okay.
very stressful. So, you know, like I enjoy different aspects of it, but I think I enjoy what I do right now. I have a long commute because I work on Staten Island and I live in
Right.
Manhattan, and it is a long commute, but I've been there for a long time, so I'm used to it now. So again, like, you know, there's no such thing as a perfect job. You might have a horrible commute, or you might I work with very supportive colleagues. I have a very supportive chief librarian, but you know, like not everyone is that lucky. Some people, you know, let's say don't get along with everyone, or you know, I think what's interesting about librarianship is I find, and this is also in the literature, like people don't understand what we do. So I think it's like it's kind of my job to, and other people's, to develop like an elevator pitch,
Right.
and like in like 20 seconds highlight what you do, elevate it, promote it, and advocate for not only libraries, but also for librarians. And can you do it in 10 seconds or 20 seconds? It's difficult, right? It's very difficult.
Yeah.
But I think that that's fun to like, what can you convey to a person who knows nothing about libraries, especially those people that say, oh, I can find it all online on Google. Well, you know,
Like,
that's like, it's so tiring. It's
It
so
is.
exhausting. It's so exhausting when people say, yeah, I can find it online on Google, you know, anyway. But you know, so that would be my advice, is to like, you know, don't limit yourself to like, I'm only working in an academic library, especially to new graduates. Like, be open to like working at different kinds of libraries and kind of experiencing like the culture of different libraries. I know that I've done that.
Right. Okay.
Did I answer all your questions?
You are doing fantastic. We're
Great,
almost there.
Great.
What do the job prospects look like for your type of position? Are there a lot of openings out there?
You know, I don't really know. I know that when I graduated, I was told, oh, like a lot of people are retiring and there's going to be a lot of job openings. I don't know. I think it's like, it's really competitive. It's very competitive because, I think with budget cuts, there's like less permanent positions. So I think that the way to start out is start out as an adjunct, start out as, you know, part-time, have a different positions and work part-time. And if you're interested in going and kind of being a part of the organization, I think like start as part-time and then work your way into like a contract. So like, let's say a full-time, you know, 1-year contract. And you know, like don't be open to contracts. Some contracts could be renewed. Some contracts can turn into full-time permanent positions. I know that when I was in Canada, I worked on contract for many years, and I obviously became very frustrated because contracts are frustrating because they have a deadline. You know, that they're not permanent. But I still think as a new library science graduate, you know, to be open to getting professional experience after your MLS by trying to, you know, get your name out there and work part-time positions, be open to working contracts, because I think it's highly competitive. Another thing too is if you want to work in an academic library, very often they're going to expect you to have a second master's. Right. So be aware of that. I don't think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that's the expectation in a public librry, but in academic library, they expect you to have double masters, which doesn't make sense because we don't use it. So it is.
Yeah, I did recently learn from doing these interviews that law librarians often have a JD, which kind of blew my mind. But
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes. But I can tell you right now that as an academic librarian, and this is like, I think this is like my third university that I've been working as an academic librarian. I don't necessarily use my second master's degree. I have it. I don't necessarily use it.
Okay.
So that, I think that's, so it's like it's a requirement in CUNY. Other academic institutions, I think it's like it's recommended, but I don't know if people necessarily use it. You're right. Law librarians often have the JD, some don't, but yeah, so in that case, it would be a good idea, right? But you know, I was a hospital librarian. I did not have a health science background at all. You know, I mean, I didn't. I felt like a phony. I really felt like an imposter. I had, you know, I really
Imposter
had,
syndrome is real.
oh, it is real. I really felt like I was like, what am I doing in a hospital? I don't have a science or a health science background.
Right.
So it was kind of uncomfortable.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay. What has been the biggest challenge you've faced in this profession?
I think publishing is I think having faculty status is stressful because you don't only have to do your job really well, you have to publish. And I had never published ever in a peer review journal. I think that was the scariest thing. I mean, I've done that like since starting in the CUNY system. I started in 2008.
Okay.
So I have, but that was the scariest. I had never published an article in a peer review journal. I had published in, like, you know, magazines. I had published, like, you know, in like, you know, like professional publications, but I had never published in an academic journal. That to me was like the scariest thing.
And it's hard to
it was hard,
those, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard and scary. And yeah, so to me, that was the most challenging, I think.
Okay.
I also think like writing a book, which I have written several books now, but I think like writing a book was also like the scariest thing. It was like such a scary thing to do.
Okay.
It's less scary
now. Okay. Are there any accomplishments during your library career that you are particularly proud of?
I think 14 years ago, my university sent me to China for a month, and I did like an exchange program. And I don't travel a lot. I mostly travel to Canada to see my family and friends.
Right.
I don't really travel. So I had really never traveled abroad. Like I've never been to Europe. I've never really traveled. So when CUNY sent me to China for a month, that was like a big deal. I was like super scared.
Wow.
It was like a big culture shock. I'm also vegan, so I have a lot of like very limited like food that I can eat. And I was starving. Like I was really having a lot of trouble eating.
Okay.
I eventually found things to eat because I was there for a month. But I would say like that was an amazing experience. Amazing experience that I was able to like visit Shanghai, teach as a guest lecturer. I was like a guest lecturer and like be in an exchange program where a librarian from China came to our university, to our campus.
That's
and
amazing.
I went to Shanghai University, and I was like going to different libraries and meeting students, participating in their library science program as a guest lecturer. And that was a great experience. And, you know, I went to Beijing and I visited like different like historic sites. I was mostly in Shanghai, but I did go to other cities. And I think it was just a great experience.
Okay.
Great experience. And that's something that like sticks in my mind is like, because it was an exchange program and it was fully funded. Like CUNY sent me to China. So I was very grateful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I also being on sabbatical was great because I did have a year to work on my dissertation, and I'm very grateful that CUNY librarians have faculty status and we are granted sabbatical every 7 years. So that I'm very, very, very grateful that I had that opportunity.